Hello everybody, look at that. We are at this beautiful circuit here in Spielberg, the Red Bull Ring, as we get set for the first on-track action here in this penultimate weekend of the 2022 season, with Free Practice 1 coming up in less than 5 minutes time now. And as you can see, we are surrounded by these beautiful Styrian mountains right in the middle of the Styrian hills. Fantastic views all around. It's a wonderful, wonderful facility. It's surrounded by beauty, and it also happens to be a great racetrack. So it's going to be a fantastic weekend, this, with the championship still wide open with 4 races to go, including the 2 this weekend and the 2 at Hockenheim in just 2 weeks' time. We'll know by then the 2022 champion. My name's Chris Hartley, and I'm here to talk you through all of the action this weekend with these 2 free practice sessions today, the second of which starts at 3 o'clock local time this afternoon, and then we've got qualifying and race 1 tomorrow, and the same again on Sunday. And this circuit, which has been through many iterations, a fantastic venue, a driver's favourite. Certainly it is right at the top of my list of places to come. The circuit dates all the way back to the late 1960s originally. In fact, back to the 1950s if you go back to the days of racing on the nearby military airfield at Zeltweg, which is just about 5 kilometres from here. That was where racing first came to this part of the world. And then it was even on the Formula 1 calendar back in the 1960s, Zeltweg, the airfield circuit. But more famously then, this permanent circuit was built. It was originally called the Österreichring, built in 1969, hosted Formula 1 races every year from 1970 all the way through to 1987. And then the track was redesigned and shortened in the 1990s, became the A1 ring, hosted Formula 1 again for 7 consecutive seasons in the late 90s and early 2000s. And then it was bought by Dietrich Mateschitz and reopened 11 years ago now in 2011 as the Red Bull Ring. And it is a facility second to none. And there are 4 Austrian drivers here this weekend, all hoping for success in their home race. And there is one perhaps most likely to do so, because he's already up there second in the championship, Lucas Auer, the Austrian driver, on course for his best season so far in DTM, and he is 32 points behind the championship leader Sheldon van der Linde, who's had 3 race wins this season now. Still the only driver to win more than 1 race this year, Sheldon. He's had 3 wins. Lucas has had 1, and Grenier is third in the championship, has had a race win as well. And he's 34 points adrift, so it's 130 points for Sheldon van der Linde, 98 for Lucas Auer, 96 for Grenier. But there are still, if you include the qualifying points and potentially the fastest lap points, 116 points up for grabs. After this weekend, there'll only be 58 points up for grabs. So if, and it's a big if, Sheldon van der Linde could extend his lead to 58 points or more, then he could potentially wrap up the championship title. But if you've been following the season, you'll know that it is not predictable, this championship. It is far from it, and drivers tend to have 1 good race, 1 bad race, mixed weekends all around. Certainly that was the case for Sheldon van der Linde at Spa a couple of weeks ago. Didn't score any points in race 1, had problems in qualifying, couldn't get the car set up in a rain-affected session, had to come from almost the back of the field, didn't quite get into the points, although he very nearly did in the last couple of laps of the race. So scored 0 points on Saturday. However, a good, strong second-place finish in the second race on Sunday, and despite only having 1 good day, really, he still managed to extend his championship lead. That's because everybody else has the same problem this year. It's David Schumacher, who, with Team Winward...
Radio check.
As we get the traditional radio checks, that's Lucas Auer. All part of practice, really, just to check things over, check the systems.
For the moment.
Doesn't sound like it's always working.
But anyway, give me a radio check in every corner.
Yeah, copy. Give me a check in every corner so we can tell the signal's working. Yes, the David Schumacher and his teammate, one of his teammates at Winward, Maxi Götz, the reigning champion, were out this week, a couple of days ago at Leoben, which is the nearest big town, promoting the championship. Took the car there, had a whole day in the town centre, called it Speed Day. The drivers were there signing autographs.
10 seconds.
Practice pit stops as well, and really good, a good event to promote the championship this weekend.
4, 3, 2, 1.
So it's now green and we wait half a lap. Let's push the car forward, guys.
There's the countdown then. Marius Sugg, the 19-year-old in his first season of DTM, is going to be the one that leads them out onto the circuit as we get 45 minutes of free practice one underway here in Austria, the penultimate weekend of the season. It's a 4.318 kilometre long circuit. It is undulating. The exit from turn one at Niki Lauda turn, she's almost a 90-degree right-hander. From there, you climb steep uphill through to the next braking zone, which is turn 3, which is a hairpin at the top of the hill. Turn 2, the Munster turn, is flat out left-hand kink, but it really does rise all the way up through that first set to the top of the hill, and then it rolls up and down through the middle part of the lap, through between turns 3 and 4, and then really it's a roller coaster back downhill from the Rauch turn, the right-hander at turn 4, all the way down then through this sequence in the middle of the lap, which takes in the right-hander at turn 5, the left at turn 6, downhill into the Graz turn, turn 7. Then it levels out a little bit through turn 8, and then you're downhill again all the way through the final 2 turns at turn 9. Jochen Rindt turn, named after the posthumous Formula 1 world champion, the Austrian Formula 1 world champion, and the final turn, turn 10, which you have to be very brave through at around about 140 kilometres an hour. It's almost a 90-degree right-hander, but they take a huge amount of speed through there and then swoop downhill onto the start-finish straight. They should reach something in the region of 245 kilometres an hour on this circuit, so it's not the absolute fastest in terms of top-end speed. We have seen cars, particularly at Spa, pushing 265, 268 kilometres an hour, but it's the nature of the corners here which is mind-blowing, really. Some of the speed they take through the turns and the undulations, the up and down nature of the course, particularly the downhills, make it tricky under braking, because sometimes all the weight of the car is on the front wheels. It means the back of the car is light, and it's easy to lose the back end and just understeer off onto the curbs and into the gravel trap. So the session underway. 45 minutes to get a feel for things. It's pretty cool here as well. It looks beautiful on the pictures, but there's a real autumnal bite to the air. We flew to Vienna last night and stayed about half an hour from Vienna, and then drove the rest of the way this morning, coming through various mountain tunnels, and we were right up in the clouds. And on one side of the hills it went from being about 10 or 11 degrees and really sunny to being up in the clouds and about 4 or 5 degrees. The sun has broken through here, but it's only 8.5 degrees, the air temperature, and the track temperature is incredibly low at less than 6 degrees at the moment. So it will change, it will warm up, more rubber will be laid down through this session and through the sessions for the support series as well. So it will grip up, but it will probably be a very different track this afternoon at 3 o'clock than it is now. So you'd imagine it's going to be pretty sketchy, a little bit slippery for them, given the cold conditions of the circuit. So a little bit of attention required here from the drivers, and also the ability to change the setup, and especially the way the car is working in relation to the tyres on track, which is going to change and evolve as the day goes on. A reminder that they all run on the mandatory Michelin tyres, the S8M tyre. It's a medium compound tyre, pretty durable tyre, it has to be said, as we've seen in the races. They get 4 sets of tyres to last the whole weekend, so 4 sets of tyres for 2 free practice sessions, 2 qualifyings and 2 races. It's one more set than they had last year, but they still have to make the tyres last, and one of the sets has to be used in the free practice session as well. And there we can see 2 of the key contenders in the championship. Third, Grenier, and behind him there, Sheldon van der Linde, climbing up. You can see how the rise is there up at turn 3. That's a corner they take in first gear. It's a really tight hairpin. So first gear corner there, right at the top of the vista, and then you roll a little bit through here, up and down, as you go from turn 3 to turn 4, which is again pretty slow corner, hard on the brake. Second gear, you can see out of turn 4 here, really does begin to descend downhill the circuit, and then you go out through the right, immediately into this left-hander where Grenier is going now. This is turn 6, and then again get on the throttle, but carefully, because you are steep downhill on the exit again down towards Graz turn, which is turn 7. Grenier goes through there now, about 150 kilometres an hour flat out through turn 8 as you build up and go through the gears, and then down to the penultimate corner at Jochen Rindt turn, and then out through this final turn here at turn 10 at about 140 kilometres an hour. Grenier comes out of turn 10. Track limits, I'm sure, is going to be an issue this weekend. It normally is in any race these days, anywhere in the world, but we've got to be very careful not to go too wide out of that last corner. It's easy to get all four wheels over the curb. Grenier sets the early benchmark time then of 1 minute 30.015 seconds, but it's starting to speed up elsewhere now. Ricardo Feller, his Amp Sportsline teammates, the first to dip into the 129s with a 129.497. And another of the home heroes, Thomas Preining, in his first DTM season, has put the absolute best first sector time in at the moment. Great weekend for Tommy last time out at Spa with 2 podium finishes, 2 third-place finishes, already a race winner, the first ever driver to win in a Porsche in the DTM when he took victory at the Norris Ring. And Tommy Preining really is starting to creep up the championship table of late, so he's up to 7th place in the standings now, and one of the on-form drivers. Clement Schmidt, another Austrian that will be looking to go well here. Philipp Eng and Lucas Auer, we've already mentioned, has been second in the championship, so 4 home races. What's Preining going to do here then? It's a tidy run through turn 9, takes a bit of curb there, right on the line as he comes out through turn 10. Muller's on a good lap as well, which is slightly quicker in the middle sector. Thomas Preining is second at the moment, but only a 10th behind Ricardo Feller. Nico Muller has gone quicker than him already, though. He's right behind him on the track, and Nico with a 129.558, 61 thousandths of a second adrift of Ricardo Feller's best time. Ricardo having to try to recover here from what was a really, really tough weekend at Spa. Didn't score points in either of the races. He didn't score points in race 2 at the Nürburgring, so he's had 3 non-points finishes on the bounce. But Ricardo looking good here at the start of the weekend with that 129.403 is the fastest driver for now. But time's getting quicker and quicker. Kelvin van der Linde, absolute best middle sector. Philipp Eng, the Austrian driver, absolute best first sector, is behind him on the lap, but they're both looking to improve. We've now got how many? 6 cars in the 129s. Van der Linde fastest with 129.084. Feller second, 129.403. Muller down to third, Rast fourth, Preining fifth, and Mirko Bortolotti, who is down to 4th place in the championship now after a tough couple of weekends. He was in the top 6. He's down to 7th place because Clement Schmidt has just popped himself up into 2nd place. The Grasser Racing team, so Gottfried Grasser's team, the Austrian team, their home weekend, good start for them with Clement Schmidt up there and Bortolotti up in the top 10 as well. Philipp Eng looked like he was on a good lap, so it proved to be. He's gone second. Lucas Stoltz is going through the shop now in the yellow Mercedes, and the HRT driver is 3rd quickest now with a 129.2. So 129.084 the fastest time. Probably going to be dipping into the 128s before too long. And Nico Muller might be the first to do it. No, he just dropped a little bit of time in that final sector. Somebody else that had a tricky weekend at Spa and has fallen down the championship table has announced that after many years together with Audi, he's leaving the brand at the end of this season. Nico, the 2-time champion, looking to end that relationship on a real high with 2 good weekends here. Probably consider himself, although mathematically he's certainly not out of the championship, but he's 78 points adrift of the championship lead in 8th place. He might just be looking to go out and get some big results here and wins, not have to worry about championship points like some of the drivers ahead of him in the table. Ricardo Feller got himself back to the top of the times by becoming the first driver into the 128s just now with a 128.998. That's 86 thousandths of a second quicker than his teammate Kelvin van der Linde. It was because Clement Schmidt has gone 2nd quickest. That's 2 good laps from Clement now with a 129.031. He's had a few point scoring finishes this year, Clement Schmidt, in the Lamborghini, best of which was a 6th place finish at Imola, but he's hit the ground running here, that is for sure. And all but 4 drivers on track just did their personal best laps last time around, so the track is starting to come to them as they get some heat into the tyres, heat into the brakes, lay a bit more rubber down on the track, and the track temperature has gone up quite a lot already, really, given that we've only been in the session for about 10 minutes. It's already crept up to nearly 9 degrees. It's still very cold, but it's almost 3 degrees warmer than it was just 10 or 15 minutes ago. Now, Sheldon van der Linde, the championship leader, absolute best first sector, 22.40 seconds. Dennis Olson has just crossed the line and gone quickest in the Porsche. A race winner and a pole sitter he became for the first time at Spa last time out, and he's still very much involved in the championship, the Norwegian, 5th place in the title fight. 4 thousandths of a second quicker than Ricardo Feller's time. A little bit down, though, in the middle sector is Sheldon van der Linde. He's about 4 tenths down in that middle sector, so I'm not sure he's going to challenge on this lap. The middle sector is the longest sector, the one you really have to get right. Sector 1 goes from the start up to just before the hairpin at turn 3. Sector 2 takes in turns 3, 4, 5 and 6, and then down to the Gratz turn at turn 7 is where sector 2 ends, and then turns 7, 8, 9, 10 and 11 are sector 3. So Clement Schmidt comes into the pits. Sheldon van der Linde crosses the line with a better lap for him, but only a lap which puts him into 9th place for now. But it's Dennis Olson that's gone quickest with that lap about 60 seconds ago. That 1:28.965 to go only 4 thousandths of a second quicker than Ricardo Feller, and only 8 thousandths of a second quicker than Lucas Stoltz, and 66 thousandths of a second off the pace, which is next to nothing. But 4th quickest is Clement Schmidt. Bortolotti improved on his previous lap as well. He's back up to 5th. He's put Kelvin van der Linde down to 6th place. And then Muller, Eng, Sheldon van der Linde and Arjun Maini round out the top 10. Another good first sector here for Sheldon van der Linde in the BMW, the Schubert Motorsport run car, going well. And we haven't seen him as yet, but we've got one new driver on the grid this weekend, making his debut in the DTM. A very late announcement. We heard a day or two ago that Esteban Muts is having to have an operation, and Esteban is going to miss the final 2 weekends of the season. So the Volkenhorst squad, who also run a BMW, or a couple of BMWs, have brought in Leon Kohler, former Porsche racer, front-runner in the Porsche Carrera Cup Deutschland, a former Porsche Super Cup front-runner as well. And he's coming this weekend, so baptism of fire, but he makes his debut. So there will be 27 cars on the grid. This is a better lap then from Sheldon van der Linde, and it puts him into the top 6, so 1:29.098. And that means, everybody, you've got 7 drivers separated by just over a tenth of a second. Does give us really close racing, this circuit, and it will give us close qualifying. Already lap times are being deleted for, you know what, track limits. So Felipe Fraga is current and last lap times deleted for track limits. Maximilian Gutz, same problem, but it's a long, long list. I could read out the list, but it's about a dozen cars that have already had laps taken away for track limits. So they are pushing the boundaries, as you would do, I guess, in free practice 1. So here's the driver quickest at the moment, Dennis Olson, the Spa race winner, bailing for the pits. His best lap's a 1:28.9. His last lap was a 1:29.2 before he came in. So it's not just one good lap he's been able to put in, but 2 or 3. And so Dennis Olson brings the SSR Performance Porsche in. 4-litre flat 6 engine powers that car along. Can do around about 193 miles an hour, and it's around about 520 brake horsepower. 0 to 60 in about 3 seconds, just over 3 seconds. A man that's won plenty of big races in his career so far. The 26-year-old, a Bathurst 12-hour winner, a Kyalami 9-hour race winner, a Porsche Carrera Cup Deutschland champion 5 years ago as well in the 2017 season, and already he has become an increasingly regular fixture in terms of the DTM podium. Finishes with a win last time out at Spa, as I mentioned, and then he's had a 2nd place at the Nürburgring and a 2nd place at the Norris Ring as well. So it's the Porsche which is quickest. Ricardo Feller, though, with a great start to the day with 2 or 3 really good lap times. 2nd is almost on that pace. Lucas Stoltz 3rd. So we've got Porsche, Audi, Mercedes, the top 3. Lamborghini with Clement Schmidt 4th. Lamborghini with Mirko Bortolotti 5th. First of the BMWs, as is often the case this year, is Sheldon van der Linde, and he's in 6th place. And the Ferraris, Nick Cassidy, now a race winner in DTM. Nick is 13th place currently. Felipe Fraga is in 20th, but they don't tend to show their hand too much in terms of out-and-out raw pace during these sessions. Another 100th or so shaved off in that first sector for Sheldon van der Linde. Mighty consistent, and you can see he's a couple of, 3 tenths quicker than Lucas Stoltz, 4 tenths quicker than Arjun Maini through that first sector. We're currently looking at Lucas Auer, who's 14th at the moment. Best lap's a 1:29.4, which is only 4 tenths of a second off the pace, but it's so evenly matched that puts him out of the top 10 currently. Sheldon's done a personal best middle sector as well with a 39.4, which is a couple of tenths down on the absolute best. He's quicker than everybody at the start of the lap. He loses out a little bit in the middle, but he's quick at the end of the lap as well, so he could improve. He's 6th at the moment, and he does. He goes to the top of the time, so 1:28.781 as he flashes past the commentary box and charges back down towards turn 1. Niki Lauda, and a 1:28.781 puts him the best part of 2/10 quicker than anybody else. Arjun Maini looking to improve. He's going to get himself back into the top 10. He goes 6th quickest, Arjun. So the Indian driver in the HRT Mercedes, new team for him this year, in his 2nd season of DTM, he has put himself back into the top 6, or into the top 6 for the first time, with a 1:29.062. And what's a fairly quiet track now, you've got Sheldon van der Linde out on track, Arjun Maini, and Nick Cassidy is out there. Lucas Auer, of course, we are seeing, and is the other one that's out there is Leon Kohler. They're the only ones out on track at the moment, so only half a dozen cars on track. Everybody else currently in the pits, and most of them have gone into the garages to get things checked over, have a look at the settings, and then maybe try something different.
Pressure's pretty good. We'll keep it where it is. Yeah. Copy, box.
Team radio, Sheldon van der Linde says tyre pressures feel pretty good. Some good laps, really good lap to put him to the top of the times. And he's really, really quick. He's really got it nailed through the first sector. He's quicker than anybody through there. I would say he's put in the 3 or 4 top sector 1 times. Got it together in the middle of the sector, and a really good end to the lap, which put him top of the times for now in this 45-minute session. 3 wins for Sheldon. We've had 9 different race winners so far this season from the 12 races that we've had. In terms of wins for brands, Audi have had 3 wins, BMW have had 3 wins, Mercedes, Ferrari and Porsche have had 2 wins apiece. Lamborghini haven't quite got on to the top step of the podium yet, despite Mirko Bortolotti's best efforts. He's come close, he's been on the podium, but that's the brand looking for its first win, and he might need to pick up a win or 2 at least in these final 4 races to drag himself back into the championship fight. Remarkably, we've had 16 different drivers on the podium so far this season as well, 9 different pole sitters. So I think it's fair to say it has been completely wide open this championship season. Just to look back on last year as well as a bit of a form guide, although lots of different drivers in the championship this year as well as different teams. But last year, we had a great weekend for Ferrari here. Liam Lawson took a pair of race victories here, absolutely dominated in the weekend. So Ferrari winning both races here last year. And it was a good weekend for Maxi Götz. It really put him right up there in the championship fight. And she ended up winning, of course, at the Norris Ring a couple of months later. But he had 2 podiums here last year in the Mercedes, a 2nd and a 3rd. Marco Wittmann's BMW was on the podium in race 2. He had a 2nd place finish. Philippe Ellis took a podium for Mercedes last year as well. So the Ferrari of Liam Lawson dominated, but there was success for Mercedes and BMW as well. It was okay, but not mega weekend for Audi. Kelvin van der Linde had a 5th and a 6th here in the races last season. It's a good weekend for Arjun Maini as well. He's hit the ground running here, but Arjun last year appeared to, well, at the time were his best results in the championship. He had a 6th and a 7th here. He'd already picked up his first points the previous weekend at the Nürburgring, but a 6th and a 7th here was, up until the Norris Ring at the end of the season, his best all-round weekend in the championship, and then he bettered that in the final weekend of the season with a 2nd and a 6th, Arjun Maini, but perhaps not a surprise to see him up there. He's gone 2nd quickest now, by the way, so 1:28.960 he's done, which has put him just 0.05 of a second clear of Dennis Olson, who was quickest at one point in the session, but he's now 3rd. So Sheldon van der Linde still in the pits, is quickest. Arjun Maini, he's out on track, he's gone 2nd quickest. And then the next 3, Dennis Olson 3rd, Lucas Stoltz 4th and Ricardo Feller 5th. They're all in the pits at the moment. We're seeing Lawrence Van Tour with a troubled weekend at Spa. Despite showing plenty of potential in the practice sessions, we've seen him on track. There's Clement Schmidt, number 85, in the foreground. And Michael Grenier, who started to pick up consistent points of late, the Canadian driver in his first season of the championship there, in the number 55 Mercedes. His last 2 weekends at the Nürburgring, he's been in the top 10 in 3 of the 4 races, and his best so far, last time out at Spa in race 2, a 6th place finish. So Michael Grenier starting to come good at the moment in the Gruppe M machine, that orange, white and blue trimmed car. Grenier, driver that brings with him lots of GT experience, albeit his first season of DTM. He's 29, comes from Quebec in Canada, was 6th in the GT World Challenge America last year with Greenwood Racing, and a Pro-Am champion that season as well. And he's also raced in Blancpain. He was a Lamborghini Super Trofeo Europe champion back in 2017, but he's been a front runner in Porsches as well in the Italian Porsche Carrera Cup Championship. Raced over in the States for a while in single-seaters as well, in things like the Formula BMW Americas Championship, the Star Mazda Series, and even Indy Lights for a couple of seasons, Clement Schmidt, before coming back over to concentrate on racing in GTs and in Europe. He's 6th quickest at the moment in the GRT machine, the Grasser Racing machine. We really will be hoping for good things here. Gottfried Grasser, the team principal, who have won many things, including the Blancpain Endurance Championship with Mirko Bortolotti back in 2017. They've had class wins at the Daytona 24 Hours as a team, with Bortolotti and Rob Inishen amongst the drivers that have raced for them. Class winners at Sebring as well back in 2019 in the 12-hour race there. So they're a hugely experienced team, as is the team that runs this car, the AF Corsa team. Marto Ferrari, team principal, sporting director Ron Reichert, and the team in the DTM for the second season. The team's champions of last year, and very nearly the drivers' champions with Liam Lawson as well. They're based in Piacenza, which is just south of Milan in the north of Italy, pretty close to Monza. And a team which was founded in the mid-1990s by Amato, who was a former racing driver as well. They've had class wins at the Le Mans 24-hour race and drivers and manufacturers titles in the FIA World Endurance Championship as well. Their first championship with Ferrari was back in 2006 when they won the FIA GT crown with the F430. That was the team's debut year in the championship, and they are really a force to be reckoned with in DTM, as it's proved to be. But Ferrari's not right at the top of the times at the moment, that is for sure. Felipe is back in 22nd place. Felipe Fraga, a steady weekend, and he hasn't really had a steady weekend all season. It's either been great or a bit of a disaster, or usually a bit of both for him. But it was nice to see him just getting some steady points, which is something he hasn't managed to do. You get the super slow-mo. Oh, a bit of a lock-up there for Clement Schmidt. Great slow-mo. And the movement of the car as well as it comes through the corner with the Michelin tyres. And the brakes started to get hot, even though it's very cool temperatures here. So, Dennis Olson's gone back out. Lucas Stoltz has popped himself up to 3rd place in this session. Tommy Preining has been improving as well. He's up into 5th. So Arjun Mainy's gone into the pits now. Was 6th, then he got to 2nd. He's back to 6th place now. And everybody getting quicker in this part of the session that's on track. Sheldon van der Linde still not on track. He's still in the pits, which means he has dropped back to 10th place now. And I suspect that's a lap time taken away from him as well. Let's have a look. There's a long list of lap times deleted for drivers, but I suspect, even though people have been going quicker, he must have lost that lap that he set his best time on just before he came in. Because, yes, he's shown as being a 129.2 now, and he got into the 128s, didn't he? So, Clement Schmidt quickest for now. And Tommy Preining's just crossed the line and gone 2nd in the Kuss Team Bernhard car. There he is. Porsche twitching over the curbs as he goes into turn 1. Still on it as he exits the corner, the young Austrian. Former Porsche Carrera Cup Deutschland champion. We'll go flat out through the left-hand kink at turn 2, Munster turn, which is a curve rather than a turn, really. And then it'll be on the brakes from 5th gear at about 240 kilometres an hour down to 1st gear and about 65 kilometres an hour through turn 3. And that's the first sector complete, and it is a personal best first sector as well. He's only 20 thousandths of a second off the fastest time here. But Clement Schmidt, who's quickest at the moment, has just put in the absolute best middle sector as well in the number 85 Lamborghini with a 39.132. So Clement Schmidt already quickest with a 128.871. Looks like he's about to go even quicker than that if he holds it together through the final sector as we watch René Rast, the 3-time champion who currently sits in 14th place. Bortolotti has improved up to second place, and Clement Schmidt does put in the new absolute best lap of the session in free practice 1 with a 1:28.565, a mega lap that from Clement Schmidt. That puts him more than 3/10 quicker than anybody else, and that was with Bortolotti improving as well. And Kelvin van der Linde's just gone through and smashed it. He's gone second. Personal best in all 3 sectors, a 1:28.790. There's Nick Cassidy, Spa race winner. Tremendous drive from him. Worth mentioning that contact he had, if you watch the race with René Rast as well in race 2, going down towards La Source, that would have given a time penalty for René, but because he retired from the race, as we get a spin there from Rosberg Audi of Dev Gore, gets it back together again as rejoins just behind Sheldon van der Linde. But yeah, because he didn't finish the race, couldn't serve the time penalty, then René Rast will carry a 3-place grid penalty going into race 1. And there are a few drivers with grid penalties as well. Arjun Mainy's got a 3-place grid penalty for race 1. That's for multiple track limits offences in race 2 at Spa. René Rast, the 3-place grid penalty for that contact with Cassidy, as I mentioned. And then Lawrence Vantura's got a 3-place grid penalty, and Marco Wittmann a 3-place grid penalty for track limits. So wherever they qualify tomorrow, it's going to be a slightly different looking grid when we get to the afternoon. Ralph Inishen, lap time deleted for track limits last time around. Add him to the list. And Dev Gore, who just had that spin, we just saw the back end of, he had his previous lap time deleted as well. Arjun Maini back out. Philippe Enger's just gone back out. So all of the top 10 are currently on track. Clement Schmidt, the fastest of all, with that 1:28.565. And he's also put in the second best lap of the session. So his last lap was a 1:28.689. So he's got the fastest 2 laps of the session here, Clement Schmidt. Go really well. Sheldon van der Linde just getting back up to speed. This won't be a flying lap, but he might be about to go onto one, or he might just be trying out the settings for a longer run now. It's not just about getting the car set up for a single lap pace. Right, here in the number 10 BMW, we've talked about him already. It's the first time we've seen him on track. Is young German driver making his DTM debut today. A very late call-up for Leon Kohler in the Volkenhorst Motorsport BMW, the number 10 car, blue and black. There it is. And he's going rather well at the moment. Showing personal best lap times on this lap. It's going to be competitive, this. He's 16th at the moment, but he's going to move up the order here. No, not quite. He loses out a little bit on that final sector, even though he was looking like he was going to improve overall there. But Leon Kohler, pretty competitive, given that's his first time in the car. It's just his best laps are 1:29.522 so far, and as a driver, as I say, with lots of Porsche experience, 5th in the Porsche Super Cup last year and 3rd in the Porsche Carrera Cup Deutschland, former German and European karting champion as well. Just 23 years of age. So welcome Leon to the championship, as we saw the onboard there, and now we see the exterior shot of championship leader Sheldon van der Linde. You can see Clement Schmidt has come into the pits opposite the commentary box. We've also got Bortolotti in. Spot check through scrutineering for Thomas Preining, and then he goes into his garage. And Lucas Stoltz is in, and I think David Schumacher and Lucas Ara, you can see both in the garages as well, as you get that replay of that spin from Dev Gore. Luckily, he wasn't collected by anybody else, so no harm done other than scrubbing some rubber off the surface of the tyres. There is Felipe Fraga, the Brazilian, who's inched up into the top 10 now in the Red Bull AF Corsa Ferrari, a 1:29.226, just over 6/10 off the overall pace. It's tight again, really tight, with 19 drivers covered by less than a second in this first free practice session of the weekend. Dennis Olson, personal best first sector, is 300ths quicker than Felipe Fraga in the first sector. Felipe's about a 10th down in the second sector. But they're both on pretty good laps here. Dennis Olson 4th at the moment. He was quickest when he set his lap time earlier on. Felipe Fraga looking to improve as well. Incident involving car 51, which is Nico Muller, is being reported to the steward. So something with Nico Muller being looked at, as Felipe Fraga then sprints for the line and possibly gets his best lap of the session. He's 9th quickest. It is his best lap. So 1:29.168. So about half a 10th quicker than his previous best lap in that one. The top 3 are all in the pits. Clement Schmidt, Mirko Bortolotti, the 2 Grasser Racing team drivers. The Austrian team with an Austrian and an Italian driver, 1st and 2nd currently. But it's a big old gap for Clement Schmidt. He's more than 3/10 quicker now. then Thomas Preining's third. He's in the pits. Dennis Olson is on track in fourth. Lucas Stoltz is in the pits in fifth. Ricardo Feller, who's another driver that has been quickest, is sixth. Nick Cassidy splits them all, though, by going second quickest in the AlphaTauri AF Corsa Ferrari. And there he is, looking good. 1:28.831. Said after the race at Spa, there was no way I was going to let that one go. He dug in deep, fought really hard to get the race victory. First a big battle with Grenier, then a big battle during that pit stop phase with Sheldon van der Linde. Sheldon with a championship and points to think about, didn't take any risks. Sheldon has said, it's hard for me, it's really hard, because my natural thing is I want to go racing, I want to finish as high up the order as I can, I want to win races, but I am admittedly also now having to think about the long game, think about championship points. So I'm not taking any unnecessary risks. But as he's proven many times this season, he's more than willing to go for the opportunities that come his way in terms of overtakes. Very nearly coming from the back of the field and into the points in race one at Spa a couple of weeks ago. Well, Nick Cassidy did go second. You'll see his name has dropped down the order now. That's because he's lost his lap time for track limits at turn 10, which is, by and large, the one that's been catching them all out. Most of the drivers that have lost a lap time, it's been because they've gone too much over the curbs at either turn 10 or the one before at turn 9. You can go on the curb, you can put two wheels on the curb, but you can't put all four wheels beyond the curb, beyond the white lines, and if you do that, then you lose your lap time. And as I said at the start of the session, that's easy to do when you're carrying all that speed downhill through turns 9 and 10. And Kohler on for a good lap here, really good middle sector. He's crept up to 14th place now, doing a really good job in the Vulcan-Horse BMW. His teammate, Marco Wittmann, the two-time champion, is behind him currently in 23rd position. There he is. Leon Kohler was on a good lap, but he doesn't finish the lap. Heads off into the pit lane. And Clement Schmidt on another mighty lap here. Absolute bests in the second and third sectors before he came in. That 1:28.565. And 2 or 3 mid-125s as Leon Kohler comes into the pits. He's still in the pits at the moment. Bortolotti, in fact, all of the top 6 are either in the pits or just coming back out now. Schmidt, Bortolotti, Olson and Feller all in. Preining, who's 3rd, and Stoltz, who's 5th, have just gone back out as Felipe Fraga comes into the pits.
Tell me only this one which is working, which is also fine for me.
Yeah, but it's still good to have it, huh? Hopefully it should work anyway.
Still a few teething troubles for Lucas Auer. We heard him testing the radio, and maybe that's a recurrence of the issue, but that's all part of what you're trying to work through in the practice sessions. Lukey at the moment is 15th quickest, 1:29.3. He's about 8 tenths off the pace. So 120 races in the DTM now. One of the most experienced drivers in the current field. And he had his best season in the DTM last year with the 5th place in the championship with Team Winwood. He's had that consistency of staying with the car, staying with the team, and it's really paying its rewards now. Running in 2nd place in the championship, but like most of the drivers up there in the top 6, he'll say it could have been better. He was on course for a certain podium in race 1 at Spa, and he got a puncture of the front left, non-finish, lots of points, potentially 18 or 15 points away from him, and he's 32 points adrift. There's a real opportunity to capitalise in race 1 for Lucas Auer at Spa, because he had Sheldon van der Linde coming from the back of the field. Mirko Bortolotti had gambled on dry tyres in a patchy, wet and dry qualifying session at the back of the field. So trying to catch up, looked like he would, but he ended up with 0 points as well. He's going back out on track now then. He'd be absolutely delighted if he could take a race win here, Lucas Auer, who became the first ever Austrian to win a DTM race when he won his very first race back in 2016 at the Lausitzring. When then the following season he got a win at Hockenheim and a win at Nürburgring in 2017. Most recently, last year, 2 wins, one at Assen, one at Hockenheim, and this year he's had 8 wins now. This year he got a win in the very first race of the season at Portimao. He's never won here at the Red Bull Ring. Going to have the 18th and 19th races at the Red Bull Ring for DTM on Saturday and Sunday. Lap time deleted for Alessia De Leyda for track limits at turn 9. the list goes on and on and on now of drivers that have done that, and it's multiple offences as well. So they'll have to look back at that and then figure out what they can do to improve to stay within the confines of the circuit but remain quick. Marco Wittmann gets a lap time deleted for turn 9, Dev Gore for turn 10. And having had that lap time taken away, Alessio Di Lady, the Italian, has come into the pits, currently in 26th place in the session. Right, on track at the moment, only about 7 or 8 cars. Quickest currently that's on track is Arjun Maini, 1:29.069. Really good lap, actually. There he is, only 0.04 of a second away from his best lap of the session, so he's going well. Personal best middle sector. Another good lap, 1:29.06 for him. So 7th place for Arjun, that's his best lap of the session, 1:29.006. And he shaves just a little bit off his previous best time. 7th place for the Indian driver on a track where he went, as I say, very well last year, albeit with a different race team, but also in a Mercedes. David Schumacher, personal bests in sectors 1 and 2. He's 22nd at the moment. Should put him more like the middle of the field if he has a good final sector. So he's about to come through over the line. Past the commentary box he comes, but he loses out again in that last sector. So overall, it is a 1:29.282. Oh, it would have been a better lap. It would have been half a second quicker, but lap time deleted for track limits. So it registered even before he got to the line that he'd exceeded the track limits at turn 9. Thomas Priding second quickest with a 1:28.831 in the Kuss Team Bernhard Porsche. Porsche weren't here, of course, as a brand last year. Made their debut in the DTM at the Nürburgring with Michael Ammermuller. However, they weren't involved in the full season, so this is one of the tracks they come to with little in the way of data in the DTM setup. They're going well at the moment with Tommy Priding there in second place for Kuss Team Bernhard, and for SSR Performance, Dennis Olson. He's back in the pits now. He's 4th quickest. A flash of the headlights. Please see me coming. Please get out of my way, says Thomas Priding. And it's to Mirko Bortolotti, a vastly experienced Italian, currently 4th in the championship, and currently 3rd in the table as well in this free practice session. Just ahead of him is Kelvin van der Linde, who is 13th at the moment, just behind his brother Sheldon. There's only 0.06 of a second between the two of them. Porsche pushing on then. So there's van der Linde, Bortolotti and Priding. Priding second quickest overall at the moment, Bortolotti 3rd quickest. Good first sector, not a bad second sector. It's not a personal best, but it's only about a 10th down in that middle sector. We've still got Clement Schmidt at the top of the times, but by a slightly reduced margin now, less than 0.3 of a second. But this is looking like another decent lap. This could be in the 1:28s again for Thomas Priding, maybe not. No, he's backed off, hasn't he? No, he has, because of the traffic. So 1:31 in the end. Started promisingly, but came to nothing in the end, that lap. Grenier still circulating, doing a pretty long run here actually, so he's building up for race setup rather than looking to try and get absolute diamond single lap times. But he is 9th overall with a 1:29.131, just over half a second away from the absolute best pace. Philip Eng is just outside the top 10 in 11th, just ahead of his Schubert Motorsport teammate Sheldon van der Linde. Philip has been saying that Sheldon has been doing a superb job this year. He's so fast, he's so consistent, but he's also a really, really good teammate. There's a good relationship there between Philip Eng and Sheldon van der Linde, and Philip's saying that, you know, it's completely open. He's completely open to sharing the data with me as a teammate, and they're working really well together. Could be handy to have a teammate up there if you're fighting for the championship, somebody like Philip Eng to look out for you on track. Act as a rear gunner as Rennie Rast whips around David Schumacher there. Schumacher has been knocking on the door of late of getting his first championship points until the dying lap or two of the first race at Spa. It looked like he was going to get a top 10 finish. He was running, I think, as high as 6th or 7th at one point in the race. Just fell away towards the end, but he's improving all the time, David Schumacher, in that Team Winwood Mercedes. Really good teammates to have around as well in Lucas Sauer and the reigning champion Maximilian Gotz is coming to the pits now. Rennie Rast stays out though, goes through to complete another lap, and it is a 1:29.1, which is his best lap of the session so far. 2 personal best sectors in that lap. Now he's going well, even though it's a longer run, putting some good lap times in here, the 3-time champion. who's got to go on the attack now, really. Lucas Aurani, Ras, Mirko Bortolotti, Dennis Olson. You think if they want to win the championship, they've got to really get some big results here. They're not wanting to get points finishes really anymore. 8th, 9th, 10th. It's not really going to be helpful. They've got to get those big points finishes, those podium finishes, race wins to close the gap. For Sheldon van der Linde, he's got that cushion now. He doesn't need to go out and get wins and podiums all the time. He can just go around and get some points. But you have to judge each race situation on its own merits. And sometimes, if you go too defensive, you can get yourself into trouble. So I think Sheldon will just stick to his game plan, which has worked for him pretty well so far this season, looking to become the first South African DTM champion. More lap times deleted. Marius Zug, Rolf Inisham, guess where? Turn 9. It's either 9 or 10. We've had a couple at turn 3. As we watch Philipp Eng then. Some bad luck at the Nürburgring when he was really looking rapid in the race until the safety car curtailed things for him. The team couldn't double stack, so he had to come in after doing an extra lap behind the safety car, and then got into a tangle and was out of the race, and a race which he looked easily capable of being on the podium, if not winning. But Philipp Eng 13th at the moment with a 1:29.172, 0.6 of a second, cover the top 12 in the session. We've had a couple of improvements out there. Ricardo Feller's gone 5th. Felipe Fraga in the Ferrari up to 6th place now, the Brazilian. So he's going very well. 1:28.954. Still just under 0.4 of a second away from that brilliant lap time from Clement Schmidt, who's back out now. Did a 1:29.2 last time. Perhaps going for a longer run. We're in the final few minutes of the session, though, so there won't be many more laps to go. David Schumacher coming down the pit lane. And there his teammate, Lucas Auer, on track. Philipp Eng, pretty good first sector. It's a couple of tenths down on the absolute best first sector, but you can see the current points there, graphic, with 34 points covering the top 3 in the championship. Those qualifying points will come in handy as well if you qualify in pole position. 3 points, second 2 points, and a point tomorrow. They've added up. The driver, perhaps unsurprisingly, that has picked up the most points in qualifying this year is Sheldon van der Linde. He's picked up 10 championship points for qualifying. That's the equivalent of a 5th place finish in a race. And the next best is Grenier, who's picked up 8 points, 7 points for Mirko Bortolotti in qualifying. And Felipe Fraga has picked up 6 championship points for qualifying. Some ridiculously close qualifying sessions this year. Closest being 0.010 of a second between the two van der Lindes at the Nürburgring. All right, Laurens Vanthoor, not seen too much of him in terms of lap times, but it's a pretty good lap, this one. This is his teammate Dennis Olson. There is Laurens, the Belgian driver in the number 92 SSR Performance Porsche. So where is he at the moment? He's languishing down in 15th place in the table, but this is looking good, although that might be track limits, I reckon, because he's definitely gone beyond them there through turn 9, so I don't think this one's going to count, even though it's going to be a good lap. I don't think they'll be giving him that one. So 4th, but I'm pretty sure he's going to tumble back down the order in a moment, because that was way over the curbs, wasn't it? Pretty much all out there on track. René Rast is the only one in the pits currently. We've got 4 drivers, Miney, Grenier, Gutz and Schumacher coming out. Max Buch has come in, but Rast, Buch and now Schumacher, only a few of them in the pits, so most of them will be on track for this final couple of minutes of the session. 10th and a half between Clement Schmidt and Tommy Preining now, so Preining's put his best lap of the session and he's still second, but he's more or less halved the gap now to a 10th and a half. Looking good here. Wouldn't that be a story if we can get an Austrian winner in Austria in this penultimate weekend of the season? Preining, he's on fire at the moment, and the team doing a great job of the team's championship as well, when you bear in mind that they've only got 1 car in the top 10 in the team's championship as well, which has been led by Schubert Motorsport, the team that ran Philipp Eng, and current championship leader Sheldon van der Linde. They're 37 points clear in the teams, ahead of Abt Sportsline. SSR Performance are 3rd, and Red Bull AlphaTauri AF Corsa came up to 4th place with Nick Cassidy's win in Spa. In terms of the manufacturers' standings coming into this weekend here in Austria, Audi lead Mercedes by 28 points, 330 versus 302, and then BMW are 3rd on 232 points, but a little way off. So it looks like a fight between Audi and Mercedes for the manufacturers' title this year. There's a BMW driver that leads the driver standings, though. There he is, and he's going to get one more lap in with just under 30 seconds left on the clock. His brother Kelvin van der Linde has improved up to 3rd place before coming into the pits. In fact, he's gone straight back out of the pits now. So the only one still in the pits is Max Buch. All the others that were there have come back out, including Grenier. And there's Ricardo Fellow, who's had a pretty good session so far. At times he's been fastest, at times he's been in the top 3. He's always been in the top 6, which is where he is now, 6th place. Checkered flag comes out. Tommy Preining's lap is solid, but it's not going to be an improvement. A 129.98 for him on that lap, so okay lap, but nowhere near the 128s he has previously done. Flag comes out for the rest of the drivers coming through now. Ricardo Feller still on a lap here. Anybody improving? Personal best middle sector for Laurens van Teur, who indeed did lose that lap time because of the track limits offence that we all saw on track. So he was 4th quickest, but way over the curbs, beyond the curbs with all 4 wheels at turn 9. So he lost that one. And that's been the case for pretty much every driver out there. I wouldn't be surprised if there's not a single driver that hasn't exceeded track limits at one point or another in this first session. It's always a key issue here at the track. So it is going to be Clement Schmidt that finishes the first free practice session at the top of the times, but only by 0.5 of a second in the end, because Tommy Preining was whittling away that advantage over the last 3 or 4 minutes of the session. Stayed 2nd, but he was nearly 0.3 down at one point. He ends up being just 0.5 down. Nico Muller is quick at the end of the session as well. He just did a 128.99. The lap before was a 128.8. So he's got himself up to 4th place now as well for Team Rosberg. So Audi's sort of starting off a little bit slower than the others in terms of the out-and-out pace, but the second half of the session they got up there, didn't they? So we've got Audi's 3rd, 4th and 5th in the end. Not 5th because Ricardo Feller's just lost a lap time for track limits, 6th. But still, a pretty good day for them so far. Clement Schmidt, though, in the Lamborghini, fastest in free practice 1, that 128.565 second lap. Tommy Preining with several good laps. 2nd quickest, 128.621, just 0.5 between them. Kelvin van der Linde, a late surge to 3rd. Nico Muller, a late surge to 4th. Mirko Bortolotti, championship contender in 5th. Ricardo Feller, 6th place for him. Felipe Fraga, Dennis Olson, Lucas Stoltz and Lucas Auer, another of the home heroes, rounding out the top 10. And there you can see just 0.4 of a second between all 10 drivers. Arjun Maini, pretty solid session as well in 11th. René Rast concentrating on the longer run in 12th place. Philipp Eng, the Austrian, Ron Finish in the Swiss, and Laurens van Teur, the Belgian driver, rounding out the top 15 with the championship leader Sheldon van der Linde, ending the first free practice session there in 16th place. So that brings to a close the first free practice session here in Austria. Local time, the 2nd free practice session, and another 45 minutes will be underway at 3 o'clock this afternoon. Hope you can join us then, but from me, Chris Hartley, and the team here at Spielberg, thanks for watching. We'll catch you again later. Bye for now.